Hello my fellow creatives. So today we learn how to make a painting of a koi fish. So we'll be using the colors Prussian Blue, Black, Viridian Green, Titanium White, Scarlet Lake, Yellow Ochre and Sap Green. The brushes that we'll be using are round brush, large, medium and small. All the details I will write down below in the description. Going on, for starters we can draw a vague outline of the koi fish and fill in the background with a little bit of black, Prussian blue and Viridian green. Now you can see how I'm using a larger brush to cover larger areas. I'm just dabbing in here and there and creating a very dynamic, flowy kind of background with the Viridian green, Prussian blue and a very little bit of black. So you can see how I'm just filling greens and blues here and there and just giving a little bit of depth with the paint. I'm adding a little bit of water whenever I feel the paintbrush is getting dry and the paint is not flowing on. You can also use acrylic mediums to dilute your paint and let it flow, or you can use a little bit more fluider paints. Here I'm using a little bit of heavy body acrylic paints. Now I'm evening it out and just filling in all the gaps and making sure there's a beautiful blend. I'm just blending the colors right on the paper to give a very dynamic effect. Now moving on to the body of the koi fish. First I'll just layer the first layer using titanium white. I'm just giving it a base so that I can blend the colors on the fish itself. So this is kind of like a wet on wet technique. So we will fill in the full body of the fish with a little bit medium size round brush. You can see how when the surface area that we have to paint has reduced, I'm reducing the size, but you can use whatever paintbrush you're comfortable with. Now I'm just going to even out the borders of the fish. Now where the fins are, I'm just going to layer it on top so that we have a very translucent effect happening over there. Once the background layer has dried, we can paint over with a little diluted paint or using acrylic medium to create this translucent effect. Just giving in the details, and we can refine it later, just the outline for us to build on. Now I'm working on the fish's tail to give the same effect that I did with the fins. I'm adding a little bit of blue so you can see we can achieve a translucent effect there. This gives depth to the painting. Once again, using the medium brush itself, I'm just refining the body of the fish as well as the borders, just refining it so that we can move on to the next layer. Now I'll just wash the brush and then go on to the Scarlet Lake to build up the color on the fish. So I'm going to be very vague here, not very specific, so that the pigmentation on the fish we can create randomly and give a beautiful effect. I'm using a bit of ochre yellow also to give a bit of shading. So just randomly I'm just putting on the Scarlet Lake and the ochre yellow. The base white is still wet, so you can see how that is getting blended into the Scarlet Lake and the ochre yellow and creating different shades on the fish. So I'm going to build up paint here and there and continue with the process until I feel we have got a good finish. Working towards the tail. Now I'll use a bit of white to blend in and create a little bit more lighter shade towards the tail. You can see and give in a little bit brush strokes also to give the effect of the tail. Next, I take a bit of ochre yellow and blend it around the Scarlet lake or the orange that we're using, and just smoothing it around to give that beautiful color to the fish. Now we will move on to the detailing of the fish's face. So I'm using a bit of white and a small brush here to define the lip area, and using highlights of the Scarlet lake and white, play around that, both of that, to give a highlight as well as depth to the lip and around the eye area. So I'm just defining both these areas and building the layers using light to dark here, and then again lighter shades to do the final highlights. So I'm just building out definition for the structures of the face. Again, finally giving the highlights with the titanium whites like I told earlier. You can see how the structures are coming out. Once again, just refining the borders to get a better finish. And a little bit of ochre yellow again around the highlights of orange or Scarlet lake. Now I'm adding in a bit of black, very little amount. So black is a very strong color, so take only a very little amount and just build up the eyes. Give a little bit of detailing, and you can use it to finish the details just around the lip. Again, giving a bit of highlight. If you feel the black is too much, you can cover it above again with the white and give a definition. I'm working with a bit more of white so that I can give in the final details of the eye, and also just finish off the face area of the fish. Giving the final outlines. If you want to add a little bit of sparkle to the eye, you can just drop in a dot on the black portion of the eye, which I have not done. Give a more sparkle and life to the fish. Now I'm just refining areas where I feel I need to. So I'm working on the tail right now. You can see how placing the orange in the lower side of the tail gives a shadow effect there. So you can work around like that. Now we'll move on to the sap green and build in the leaves. So again, I'm going to give a very vague background. So I'll mix in a bit of lemon yellow, sap green, and a very tiny amount of titanium whites, and just dab a small round brush around it. So this will give in a layering effect and create the illusion of leaves, moving leaves around the fish. Again, this creates a dynamic effect. So I'm playing around with sap green, tiny amount of lemon yellow, and tiny amount of white. You can just add in Prussian blue around the leaves also to create an effect and depth. I'm using more amount of Prussian blues to define the borders where I'm feeling the color is inadequate. So I hope you liked painting the koi fish. So happy painting!